No, I want extend desktop. We're getting there. It's getting closer here. Extend desktop. Uh-oh. Okay. Okay. Can you guys do me a huge favor? Can everybody stand up? Every person, everyone, stand up. Everyone. Okay, now, don't judge me, but I'm really nervous. So what we're gonna do is our Superman pose. Everybody do it, everyone. Do you feel the power? You feel it? Does everybody feel good? I feel powerful. We can do this. Okay, we're ready. Thank you very much. Okay, here we go. Woo. Okay. Hi, everyone. Bear with me. I am really nervous, and I also just had a lot of coffee, so we're gonna get through this. I'm Sam. You can find me on Twitter at @thelittlestdev, and today's talk is gonna be about my series, Angular for the Visual Learner. So this story starts when I was about 8 years old, and I got grounded one summer. And the only way I could get ungrounded was to build a website. My mom had just started her career as a web developer, and she loves to get creative with our punishments. So I made a website, and it was pink, and it had kittens everywhere, and it was written completely in HTML and CSS. Fast forward a couple years, I got my first paying job writing HTML and CSS for this guy, and I loved that job. I loved it. I was so good at it. And then after I graduated high school, I got a new job writing Angular, and I was super excited about this job too. I thought it would just be, the next step in my career. And my expectations were, now that I finished high school, I could go full-time. Or so I thought. When I got into more abstract concepts, I really started struggling. For example, oh, he's a little cute. Oh, there we go. So, for example, part of my new job was to write reactive forms, but I couldn't even tell you what a form group was, which didn't make any sense because 6 months earlier, I was on stage with my mom teaching reactive forms, so something was not adding up. I was not effectively doing my job. The problems I was facing while trying to work on Angular included learning the same thing over and over and over again, such as reactive forms. My mom would teach me the same thing every day, and I was making super simple mistakes. Tutorials that used code as the main tool of learning don't really help me, at all. I would avoid working on my new exciting job because it made me feel really stupid. I was getting constant stomachs and headaches, and it was just not going well. And the most pressing issue for me was my reading comprehension. I could read something over and over again, and it would just not go into my brain. I could scan a sentence over and over again, and just, oh, thank you. Next. Okay, it's cool. If it weren't for my mom, at this point, I would have given up and gone to work somewhere that didn't require any skill. A couple years ago, during my freshman year in high school, I had been tested for dyslexia, but they told me I was not dyslexic. And I believed that if I wasn't dyslexic, I was just dumb. And so I accepted that for many years. The reason for my misdiagnosis is I am lower on the scale. I can read and write and function, but it's not one of my strengths. My mom still thought, back in May, that I might still be dyslexic, so we dropped the Angular thing and started researching dyslexia. Google's definition of dyslexia is a general term for disorders that involve difficulty in learning to read or interpret words, letters, and other symbols, but that do not affect general intelligence. One thing I want to emphasize about dyslexia is it's an umbrella term. It can mean something different for every single person. Furthermore, dyslexia is a scale, absolutely, which is how I flew under the radar for my entire education, because I am lower on the scale. So, 1 in 10 people are dyslexic, and can somebody tell me how many people are in this room? Okay, so can somebody do some quick math and tell me how many dyslexics are in this room? 12. How many of you are dyslexic? I see 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 hands. That is not 12. 6. That is not 12 people. And I just want to really talk about that because there are so many undiagnosed dyslexics. So we did a lot of research, and we didn't know anything about dyslexia, but we started doing so much research, and we came across this book called The Gift of Dyslexia that really does a great job of explaining what it is and, ways to cope with this. So this contains the Davis method of learning, which, to summarize in one sentence, would be to visualize everything. I visualize everything. So, Dominic, would you mind coming up here for a second? We're going to do a test. Are you ready to take a test? Okay, come on up. Okay, put your hands out in front of you. Yeah, go Dominic. I have full faith that you're going to pass this test. And if you don't pass the test, we're all just going to laugh, and then you can run off stage. So, close your eyes. Now, picture a plate on your hand. Is it there?
Here, definitely here.
Okay, now put a piece of cake that is a triangle on that piece of plate.
Yeah. Oh, triangle.
Yes, a triangle piece of cake. Now, tell me what you see. Tell me what this cake looks like.
All right, so it's a triangle cake. It's a chocolate cake, a layered chocolate cake, and it has cream in it. And there's a cherry on top and a lot of candy sprinkles on top. Getting hungry? And there's also cream, like a little bit flowing down on one of the sides. Really good.
Okay, now you can open your eyes for a second. Keep the plate there. Now, you're looking at this cake from where your eyes are at, correct?
Yeah.
So take your mind's eye from where it is and move it to the other side of the plate, okay?
Yep.
Close your eyes. Tell me what you see from the other side of the cake.
Well, the other side of the cake.
Thank you so much. Describe to me what you see.
So well, I saw.
Which way is the cake pointing?
Here, I can see, well, pretty much the same, but the cherry is from the other side, and well, it's just the other side.
Thank you so much. Okay, now take it from where it is now and put it on the side of the cake. Tell me what the layers look like. Is it moist? Is it spongy?
It's moist, and you could really see those 4 layers, and 2 of them is cream, and the bottom is like a crunchy bottom, and
Okay, sweet. Okay, now how do you feel? You're good. That was awesome. So how do you feel when I tell you that not everybody can do that with ease?
I would be surprised.
Why?
Because I would think that for me, to me, this was pretty easy to I don't know, see this cake and explain it from different angles. So, I don't know, I would be surprised.
Awesome, perfect. Give Dominic a round of applause. You passed the test, by the way. There was no laughing or heckling. You did a great job. So, this test really showcases a dyslexic's talent. He's not moving the plate, he's moving his mind's eye around the plate to see it from all angles. Now, we can take this technique and apply it to virtually anything. I can take my mind's eye and move it around a problem, because I visualize everything. I can see a problem in my mind and see very clear solutions because I can look at it from every angle. How cool is that? Isn't that pretty cool? I thought that was pretty cool. And I didn't even know that until, oh, we're not there yet. Okay, so since my mom is not dyslexic, she tried to find a Davis method facilitator who could help me. So we took a road trip to Fort Worth to see a Davis method facilitator, Kelly Brown, who essentially taught me how I learn. She taught me that I needed to visualize information rather than reading it off a screen to really absorb it. The reason I was so good at HTML and CSS, the reason that most dyslexics are designers or work in a visual field, is because it's so visual. When I change the color of a heading, when I change a font size, when I do anything in HTML and CSS, I can see it directly on the web page. When I edit it in the code editor, I can see that translate directly into the web page. You get what I'm saying? Was that clear? Okay, sweet. So in Angular and TypeScript, it's all like magic. So much of it happens behind the scenes, and when I write a line of code, that line of code doesn't translate directly. There's so much going on behind the scenes. I can't work with that. Dyslexics learn in pictures. We think in pictures. We live in pictures. And I had no idea about this until I went and I saw Kelly Brown. I didn't even know how I thought. I had no idea that I was thinking in pictures. Once she gave me all of that information and I started living my life using the Davis method, I realized she was absolutely correct. I am such a more effective problem solver, and I am so much more self-aware than I was before I knew about dyslexia. So this is a fun one. Trigger words. So I've been saying a lot that we visualize everything. We picture everything. So what happens if we don't have a picture? That's called a trigger word. So while reading, these trigger words will disorient us. So if I'm, for example, reading the sentence, "The cat jumped," right off the bat, there's a trigger word, "the." What does "the" look like? When I think of the word "the," what picture do I see? I don't. I have no idea what "the" looks like. So that's a blank spot in the sentence, and that blank spot throws me off, and my mind just sees a blank spot and skips over that, and everything else, okay, this is not okay. So let me explain this a little bit differently. So words like feather or elephant, they are long, kind of, but those words are so easy for me because I have a picture very clearly. I can see an elephant, I can see a feather, but words like and, also, noun, none of those have pictures. And even though they're short and they're small and they're cute, I don't know what they mean because I don't have a picture for it, okay? I think that was a little bit better. Okay, so trigger words can vary for every person. And there are about 200 common trigger words in the everyday definitions of, I'm getting a little flustered up here. Okay, so there are about 200 common trigger words that we use every day that I had to, I'm just gonna take a breath. Okay, after I got home, Kelly Brown gave me some homework to do. I had to take all of those common 200 trigger words and make them into pictures, which was time-consuming and not very easy. I had to make a visual representation for each one of those words. And I made each one of them into a little movie for myself. So this, I spliced together some of my early words so you guys could see a little bit of what I'm talking about. So this is also, she sang and also played the guitar. And when I think of the word also, this is what's in my brain. This is what I see. This is down. She walked down the stairs, and she's very proud of herself. I'm not sure what this one is. But the cool thing about this homework that she gave me was once I did this, I see that subconsciously. I don't even have to think about pulling up that picture. It just stays in my brain. So I don't have to consciously see this, you know? And as you can see, the process of me learning claymation and learning how to do all this is really apparent in this little movie. That was me, in case you guys are wondering. I'm the pink guy that cleans up after everyone. Yeah, that's me. That's my role in this. And we'll get there in just a little bit. So, and there's my logo. I love that. Okay, so let's move on. So, oh, man. Okay, that's for a second. Okay, so remember these symptoms that I told you all about? Well, when we get disoriented, when a word is not, we don't have a picture for a word, it's a trigger word, we get disoriented when we read over those trigger words and they build on top of each other as you're reading. There's more and more trigger words and you're just getting more and more like, what the heck is going on here? That is when you get disoriented. And as you can imagine, there are physical symptoms of this. For me, when I got disoriented or confused, I had headaches and stomach aches. In conclusion, we get very real symptoms when we are really confused. And even though I'm lower on the scale, it still very much affects me. So in the past 6 months, since I was diagnosed with dyslexia, I have started to relearn Angular in a visual way with the help of many people. And this project has completely changed my life. I have never been good at something like I'm good at this. Dyslexia and I are finally working together, and I will never overcome dyslexia. It's a tool in my toolbox. Here is the first attempt at my mom and I trying to visualize Angular. It was tragic. But we were really trying. We didn't know. That was the first thing we ran into. What the heck does Angular look like? Like, what is that? And I love showing this because in a second I'm going to show you the final product of what we came up with. And close, but no cigar. So let's talk for a second about why Angular for the visual learner almost wasn't made. Before I had a name for dyslexia, I was hiding it. It's been my biggest insecurity for my entire life. I didn't want people around me knowing how long it took me to do my homework or how difficult it was for me to remember names or dates or places in history class. And don't even get me started about math word problems. It's terrible. On October 8th of this year, I published the introductory article to my series, Angular for the Visual Learner, and it was, up to that point, the scariest thing I had ever done. I was willingly sharing my biggest insecurity with the world. My biggest weakness became my greatest strength. Because like I said, it almost wasn't published. I put it out there with the help of my friends and family, and then I shut my laptop for multiple days. Good times. Okay, so this seems like as good as time as any to show you the first episode, the first instructional video of my series, Angular for the Visual Learner. So I'm going to step off stage and show you guys that, and I will be right back. Okay. I've been struggling with the volume all day, so let's hope it's turned up.
After I was diagnosed with dyslexia, I began to relearn Angular in a visual way, which I talk more about in an article linked in the description below. I quickly realized I was going to have to start from the very beginning. Welcome to the first episode of Angular for the Visual Learner, where we will be going over the difference between TypeScript and JavaScript. Here are the backend kids, PHP, C#, and Java. They're an elite basketball team that can handle pretty much anything you throw at them. JavaScript watched them for a long time, but JavaScript wasn't powerful enough to be on their team. JavaScript could handle things like mouse overs, button events, or drop-down menus, but the backend kids could do way more. In 2011, Node.js was introduced. Node helped JavaScript handle more backend type stuff, such as generating dynamic page content, creating, opening, reading, writing, deleting, and closing files on the server, collecting form data, adding, deleting, and modifying data in your database. In this scenario, we can imagine Node as a personal trainer for JavaScript.
Go JavaScript, you got this!
The longer they trained together, the more powerful JavaScript became. More developers were using JavaScript and building larger applications. Larger applications meant that JavaScript needed more structure and rules. And that is how TypeScript was born. In 2012, TypeScript was released. TypeScript is a superset of JavaScript. TypeScript introduced strict typing and a way to catch errors before even saving a file. All of the changes, typing, tooling, and structure, were part of the TypeScript release. That is the story of how JavaScript evolved into TypeScript.
Okay, so that brings me to my next and final point, fear. So to summarize Google's definition of fear, fear of the unknown usually adds the idea of intense reluctance. But that's not all. Fear tells you it's okay if you don't. Fear's the little voice that says it's okay if you don't publish that article. It's okay if you don't submit that CFP. No one will ever notice, right? Or another great one. Someone with more experience has already covered that. Well, let me tell you, someone with more experience has already covered the basics of Angular, but here we are, talking about Angular for the visual learner. Because the great thing about everybody learning differently is everybody can teach differently. And that's kind of what I'm trying to do here. I want to get a little bit more different in the world. Now that the conference is pretty much over, everybody's going to travel back to their little corner of the world. Everybody's going to go back to their lives at work. And I challenge you to take 1 or 2 or 5 things that you learned from this conference and teach them. Because everybody's here to become better developers. Everybody's here to further their skills, and the best way to learn is to teach. And everyone has something to share, okay? You all have something you want to say, so teach it. And And I want to say a very personal thank you to everyone who has had a nice thing to say about this project, because it's taken a lot for me to put it out there, but it's getting easier every day. And my mom especially, because I literally would not be here without her. I mean, obviously, but not what I'm saying. So, thank you, everybody. That's my talk.